Atia of the Julii, the infamous character from HBO's Rome, is of course one of my favorite TV characters of all time, but is she actually historically accurate? And the quickest answer is no, unfortunately, as much as I hate to admit it. This was one of my big disappointments with the show at the time, realizing that the real Atia was literally nothing like the one in the series. In the show, Atia of the Julii is a Roman matron who, since her husband died, has been on her own as the sole master of the household and raising her two children. She is also completely morally bankrupt, totally ruthless, very sexual, and all in all the main villain of the show. And she even goes to Egypt and is present at the triumph of Augustus, which, don't get me wrong, Atia watching after the effigy of the dead Antony as he slips far away from her forever, and her eyes tearing up, that scene is stunningly beautiful. But unfortunately, the real Atia was not present at Octavian's triumph because at that point she had been long dead. She actually died the year following Caesar's death. And so, the real life and historically accurate mother of Augustus was Atia Balba Caesonia, or if we have to pronounce it as it was back then, Atia Balba Caesonia. And according to the historical resources we have left, Atia Balba was the polar opposite of Atia of the Julii. She was the perfect Roman matron, famous for her high moral standards. As I think Tacitus or Suetonius said it, nobody could say a bad word or do a bad deed in her presence, like she was just that saintly. And of course, she wasn't the sole matron of the household. After her first husband died, she got married again the same year, and not only that, but her ambitious character has been bleached away. And we're told that when it turned out that Julius Caesar had named her son Octavian as his heir, she and her new husband actually tried to persuade Octavian to refuse the inheritance so as to avoid the danger of being killed. Which, to be honest, sounds like a perfectly sensible and loving mother to me, but nonetheless, unfortunately, a lot less interesting than Ati of the Julii from HBO's Rome. On the other hand, though, I have some good news. While I don't think Atia Baba has anything much in common with Ati of the Julii, her image seems to be much too sanitized. She's just described as too perfect. Augustus even made sure she had a Messiah birth myth attached to her legacy, like she was the Virgin Mary or something. There's a story of her sleeping in front of the Temple of Apollo and a snake impregnating her with the future Emperor Augustus. And a second myth of a guy at the time saying that she was about to give birth to the future ruler of the world, which anyone with half a brain could see as complete bullshit. And so we have to ask ourselves, if Augustus took this much care to sanitize the memory of his mother, was it actually because she indeed was at least a little bit like Ati of the Julii? We'll be left to wonder about it for eternity, as there's no way for us to know. And also, the makers of HBO's Rome have said that Ati of the Julii, as portrayed in the show, while having no basis in the historical person of Atia, is actually pretty much borrowing her image from the historical personalities of contemporary Roman women like Fulvia, the wife of Mark Antony, who was just as insane as Atia of the Julii.